Hi everybody, this is Dino from Prehistoric Facts. This is the 99th excuse me, Q&A episode, and so I'll be answering some questions, and so let's get started, shall we? Alright, Patrick from Ohio says, which pterosaur had the largest wingspan? Well, if we actually look at all the large pterosaurs that we actually find in the Cretaceous, well, we're pretty much going down to the end of the Cretaceous is where you actually start to see the really large pterosaurs actually really start to actually get supersized. And so you actually have like Quetzalcoatlus and Hatzexoropteryx. And so you actually see those types of two pterosaurs. They actually have wingspans that are actually nearly 40 feet. And so that is actually astounding. So those two would actually be the ones that have the largest wingspan. Hatzexoropteryx probably might be larger than Quetzalcoatlus, but it's still unproven yet. And so it's between Quetzalcoatlus and Hatzexoropteryx. Sorry if I'm actually almost starting to lose my voice here. For whatever reason, I just starting to choke on something that just keeps happening to me today. So whatever it's going on, I don't know what it is. All right, Benjamin from Hong Kong says, why did Armargasaurus have spikes on its neck, and what were they used for? And what kind of claws does Torvosaurus have on its powerful arms? Well, let's start off with your first question. Is why did Armargasaurus have those spikes on its neck, and what were they used for? And so when we look at Armargasaurus, it was a weird-looking sauropod. It was a type of titanosaur that lived in Argentina, and so it has these like tall spikes that are actually sticking up out of the vertebrae in the neck. And so you're kind of wondering, what in the world? Why in the world did this sauropod actually have these types of spikes? But what paleontologists actually think is that there's probably skin that was actually attached to these spikes, and these spikes were probably used for display purposes, possibly to actually probably males had the very, very brightly colored ones to show off to the females, and whereas and possibly females and both males as well probably actually did flush blood in there to actually create like a color that would actually be too scary for the predators to actually take on this Armargasaurus. But even though if you're a predator and you actually see Armargasaurus and you're thinking like, man, color display, whatever, you're actually are just hoping that it's just a distraction. And so that's what a lot of display structures that herbivores have, is that they just use those for distraction for the predator to think like, is this the head or is this the butt? What is it? Kind of like you see with certain moths that actually, with their wings, that actually almost look like owl eyes, and a lot of predators would actually think like, oh, that's an owl, I gotta stay away from that, And so that would be a deterrent to predators. But I would say Armargasaurus probably used those spines for display purposes. They probably had not much function to them whatsoever, besides to actually for display purposes. And your second question, what kind of claws does Torvosaurus have on its powerful arms? Well, they're actually going to be more grasping claws. Grasping claws like you see like in Allosaurus and like Carcharodontosaurus and all those types of those large predatory dinosaurs actually have, is that they actually have grasping claws. Now these are not going to be the claws like say of raptors, the Dromaeosaurs or the Troodontids, where their claws are very thin to actually pierce the prey into certain areas where it's going to be easier for them to actually get to the blood vessels. Whereas for like Torvosaurus, Tyrannosaurs, Allosaurs, Carcharodontosaurs, is that they actually just use those claws for grasping smaller prey. And that's pretty much what they were doing with those types of claws, is that they were just grasping, not really to slash. Because you see, if these were claws that were designed to slash, there'd be a thin blade underneath the claw on that undercurved part, and so we don't find that. And so I don't know if Torvosaurus really actually has its entire arms discovered, but I would say that like they can probably take a guess of what Torvosaurus's arms and claws might have looked like, but they were probably more grasping claws. Grasping claws where they're just really rounded at the base, so just mainly for grasping. They're not going to be using them for slashing whatsoever. And their arms, they were probably powerful enough, but I would say they were not going to be as powerful as, like, say, Allosaurus. Because Allosaurus had more powerful arms, probably had a little bit more strength in their arms than Torvosaurus does. Even though Torvosaurus is a large predatory dinosaur, probably actually did not have enough strength in the arms as Allosaurus does, because Allosaurus probably used its arms a little bit more often than Torvosaurus did. All right, that's it for now. Now, next week will be the 100th Q&A episode. Can you believe that? And so that would actually be more of prehistoric battles. So send me as many prehistoric battles as you can via email at dinocris71@gmail.com, or as on the Facebook page, Prehistoric Facts with Dino Chris. Like the page, you can actually submit your prehistoric battle questions to me on the Facebook page or by email, and I'll pick as many as I can through that episode. But remember, it's got but you see, probably don't use multiple animals in one battle. I would actually say, because don't say Allosaurus versus Torvosaurus versus Carcharodontosaurus. That's not what I'm looking for. I would actually like to see two specific types of prehistoric animals going up against each other. But if you're actually willing to include, a group versus another group, then I would say that would be fine. Like, say, a group of Utah raptors versus a group of Allosaurus. That's fine as well. And but remember, but even though these animals don't have to be living at the same time, you can actually just tell me, Torvosaurus versus the woolly mammoth. That would actually be an interesting one. But even though I'm not going to answer that one for you, but you see, I want to see what your prehistoric battles that you're going to submit to me, and I'll give you my opinion about which animals I think would win based on their weapons, their abilities, and also the brain. And so that would actually be how I would actually determine the battles, basically, who would win in these battles. So submit as many prehistoric battles as you can, and also you can follow me on Twitter at CSJRILL. That's my Twitter page. I post pretty cool stuff on there. Also, take care of the people around you, and also for younger people out there, to make sure you listen to your parents, your teachers, and the guardians. Is the best motivation you can have for good education. It's very important to have a good education. So with a good education, you get a good job in the future. All right, that's it for now, and I'll see you guys next week for prehistoric battles.